A very warm welcome to all the students of class 12th in Preeti Kaushal studio, that is the PK studio. Isn't it sounds cool? I love it, PK. So our today's chapter is from book Flamingo and the chapter 5, Indigo by Louise Fisher. So here we start. Let's talk about the author of chapter Indigo, Louis Fisher. He was born in Philadelphia, that is in United States, in 1896. He served as a volunteer in the British Army between 1918 to 1920. Fisher made a career as a journalist and he wrote for the New York Times, the Saturday Review, and for European and Asian publications. He was also a member of the faculty of Princeton University. Among his works were The Life of Mahatma Gandhi in 1950, which is the basis for the Academy Award winning film that is Gandhi in 1982, as well as Life of Lenin, which won the 1965 National Book Award in History and Biography. The chapter Indigo is an excerpt from his book The Life of Mahatma Gandhi. Now I am giving you the introduction of the chapter Indigo. The story is based on the interview taken by Louis Fisher of Mahatma Gandhi. And in order to write on him, he had visited him in 1942 at his ashram Sevagram, where he was told about the Indigo movement started by Gandhiji. The story revolves around the struggle of Gandhi and other prominent leaders in order to safeguard sharecroppers. Sharecroppers are the tenant farmer who gives a part of each crop as rent from the atrocities of landlords, that is, from the cruel treatment of landlords. So now we start with the chapter. The chapter starts here. When I first visited Gandhi in 1942 at his ashram in Sevagram, that is in central India, he said, I will tell you how it happened that I decided to urge the departure of the British. It was in 1970. So here the author explains about his first interaction with Mahatma Gandhi. He says that he first met Gandhi in 1942 at his ashram, which was in Sevagram and located in central India. Gandhi said that he would tell him about his struggle against the British, which first took place in the year 1970. Then we find that Mahatma Gandhi had gone to the annual convention, that is the conference of the Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow in December 1960. There were 2,301 delegates and many visitors. And during the proceeding, Gandhiji recalled that a small farmer named Rajkumar Shukla came to him, who was poor and thin. Rajkumar Shukla requested Gandhiji to visit Champaran. It's a place in the foothills of the Himalaya mountain range near the kingdom of Nepal. Now here, one of the most important part of the chapter. Rajkumar Shukla told Gandhi that he was a sharecropper. A sharecropper is a farmer who gives a part of the crop as a rent to the owner of that piece of land that he cultivates. So he told him that because of an old agreement, many of the peasants in Champaran, they were sharecroppers. And he had come to meet Gandhi on someone's suggestion, as he was determined to find a solution for the sharecroppers who were facing hardships due to this agreement. So he sought Gandhiji's help. After hearing his problem, Gandhiji told him that he had to visit Kanpur and some other parts of India due to prior appointments. Shukla went with him everywhere where Gandhiji goes. After this, Gandhi returned to his ashram near Ahmedabad. Shukla was always there with him for several weeks, begging him to fix a date to visit Champaran. As Gandhi was impressed with the determination of the peasant, he said that he would be visiting Kolkata after a few months and that Shukla should meet him there. So they will meet in Kolkata. On the day that had been fixed, Shukla was eagerly waiting for Gandhiji there. And when Gandhiji got free, both of them they took a train to Patna. The first visit is to Patna. There they went to the house of lawyer Rajendra Prasad, who later became the President of India. When they reached there, he was not at home, but the servants allowed both of them to stay at the grounds because they knew Shukla. Gandhi, whom they took to be another peasant, but Gandhi was not permitted to draw water from the well, lest some drops from his bucket that will pollute the entire source. So the question arises, how did they know that he was not an untouchable? Can you answer this? Now Gandhiji decided to go first to Muzaffarpur. So his first train to Patna, and there is Rajendra Prasad house, and then they go first to Muzaffarpur. Why? Because Shukla was not able to provide Gandhi with adequate information. Therefore, he decided to go to Muzaffarpur, which was on the way to Champaran, to obtain the complete information. Here he sent a telegram to Professor J.B. Kriplani, who was a teacher at Arts College in Muzaffarpur. Gandhi had seen him at Tagore's Shantiniketan school. They first met in Tagore's Shantiniketan school. And Gandhi, he took a train to Muzaffarpur that arrived at midnight on 15th April 1917. Kriplani, he was already waiting there with his students. Gandhi stayed there for 2 days at Professor Malkani's home, who was teacher in a government school. So here we can say that according to Gandhi, it was a remarkable thing that a government professor was entertaining him, because in those days, people in small localities, they were afraid of supporting those who supported home rule. The news of Gandhi's arrival and the purpose of his mission, they spread through Muzaffarpur and Champaran very fast. Sharecroppers, they started to visit him. Muzaffarpur lawyers, they informed Gandhi about the whole situation as they represented various peasants in the court. They explained to him about their cases and the fee that they charged them. Sharecroppers from Champaran, they began to arrive on foot and by conveyance to see their champion. So, when these lawyers, they explained Gandhiji about their cases and the fee that they charged them, Gandhiji chided the lawyers. He rebuked the lawyers, he criticized the lawyers for collecting big fee from these sharecroppers. He said, I have come to the conclusion that we should stop going to law courts. We should not go to law courts. Taking such cases to the courts does little good. With the peasants, these are so crushed and fear-stricken, law courts are useless. The real relief for them is to be free from fear. So what's the aim now is that the sharecroppers, they should be free from fear. Next we find that most of the arable land in the Champaran district, that was divided into large estates, and these estates are owned by Englishmen and worked by Indian tenants. The chief commercial crop was indigo. This is the important thing. The landlords, they compelled all tenants to plant 3/20th, or we can say 15% of their holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent. So here we find that the landlords, they pressurize the tenants to plant 15% of their holdings with indigo, and then they have to surrender the entire indigo harvest as the rent. So this was done by a long-term contract. While all this was going on, the landlords, they came to know about the chemical indigo that was being prepared in Germany. It was a blue color dye made with chemicals. They started demanding money from the poor peasants now, because now they had to cancel their agreements of growing indigo plantations, right? The sharecropping system, that was very annoying. So many of the peasants, they paid for the cancellation of the agreements. But as the news about synthetic indigo that spread and reached the uneducated peasants, they started demanding their money back. At this point, Gandhiji arrived in Champaran, right? He decided to gather the facts, and for this he visited the secretary of the British Landlord Association. So his first visit is to the secretary of the British Landlord Association. The secretary, he told him that they could give no information to an outsider. Then Gandhi answered that he was not an outsider. This is my country. After this, he went to the commissioner of the Trihut division. Champaran district was under Trihut division. The commissioner, he not only threatened Gandhiji but also suggested him to leave Trihut immediately. Gandhi did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, that is the capital of Champaran, and several lawyers, they accompanied him. At the railway station, a large number of people, they came to greet Gandhiji. He went to a house and use it as a headquarters, and he continued his investigations. One day, a report came in that a peasant, a farmer, had been maltreated in a nearby village. So Gandhiji decided to go and see the situation. So next morning, he started out on the back of an elephant. He was on his way when the superintendent messenger, he stopped him and ordered him to return back to the town. Gandhiji followed him, and the messenger took him back to his home. He was then served a notice which ordered him to quit his movement and return back. Gandhi received the notice, signed a receipt on which he wrote that he would not obey the order. In consequence, Gandhi received the summons to appear in court the next day. The courageous Gandhi signed a receipt for the notice and wrote on it that he would disobey the order. The next day, he received a summons to appear in court. All night, Gandhi remained awake. He telegraphed Rajendra Prasad to come from Bihar with influential friends, right? Then he sent instructions to the ashram also, and he wired a full report to the viceroy. Next morning, the town of Motihari black with peasants. That means Motihari was full of peasants as they wanted to support Gandhi. None of them knew about his works, about the works of Gandhiji in South Africa. They only knew that there was a Mahatma who wanted to help them, and now he was in trouble due to the officials. They started gathering in front of the courthouse, and this incident was their attempt of setting themselves free from the fear of the British, which Gandhiji needed. As the crowd had gathered in front of the court building, it became difficult for the officers to control the mob. They had to take Gandhi's help to regulate the crowd. Gandhi politely told the officials that if they would misuse their power, then there were chances that they would have to face a revolt from the Indians. So, as the situation was getting tougher, the lawyer they requested the court to postpone the trial by some days. The authorities decided to first consult the higher authorities. Now Gandhiji objected against the delay in the proceedings of the case. He read a statement in front of the court in which he accepted his fault in a very humble manner. He said that he was not a lawbreaker and didn't want to go against the law, but his duty towards humanity has a greater influence on him, and it forced him to do so. He refused to leave the town because he wanted to help the sharecroppers, and it was his moral duty. The magistrate asked him to arrange for bail because he was going to give his judgment after the 2-hour-long break. Gandhiji here, he refused to seek bail, and later on he was released without it. When the court proceedings they restarted, the judge refused to deliver any judgment for many days to come. He allowed Gandhi to remain free. Some well-known lawyers like Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu, Maulana Mazhar Haq came from Bihar to help and advise Gandhi. Gandhi asked that if he was sentenced to jail. At that moment, when they all are collected there, Gandhiji asked them a question. If he was sentenced to jail, then what would be their course of action? One of the senior lawyers, he replied that they were there to help him out, and if he was sentenced to jail, then they would return back. Here we find that one of the senior lawyers, he replied that they had come to advise and help him. If he went to jail, there would be nobody to advise, and they would go back home. Then Gandhi said that what about the injustice to the sharecroppers if you all go back home? Then Rajendra Prasad, he said that they thought amongst themselves that Gandhi was totally a stranger. That if Gandhi is a stranger and he is here to have the sharecroppers, and we the people who are living here, we are not prepared to help our peasants. Gandhi, who was prepared to go to prison for the sake of the peasants, and on the other hand, being not only the residents of the adjoining districts, but also those who claim to have served these peasants should go home? It would be a shameful desertion. Here, desertion means leaving someone on a difficult situation, and now they are leaving their peasants. Whereas Gandhiji, he came from far area only because of these peasants. He want here to help them. After this, we find that all the lawyers, they went back to Gandhi and they told him that they were ready to follow him into the jail. The battle of Champaran is won here. Then he took a piece of paper, divided the group into pairs, and put down the order in which each pair was to court arrest. After some days, the magistrate sent a letter to Gandhiji in which it was written that as per the orders of Deputy Governor, the case against him had been taken back. It was for the first time in modern India that a peaceful protest against the government had been won. Gandhi and other lawyers, they carried on with an in-depth investigation into the injustice with the farmers. Statements of about 10,000 peasants, these were recorded and various documentary proofs were collected. Now the whole area vibrated with activity, the investigators and the protesting landlords. In June, Gandhiji was called up to be present before Deputy Governor Sir Edward Gate. Before meeting him, Gandhiji met his chief supporters and made plans for civil disobedience in case he did not return. So Gandhiji had 4 long interviews with the Deputy Commissioner, which led to the formation of a commission that inquired into the indigo sharecropper situation. Now the commission had landlords, government officials and Gandhi, who was the only spokesperson for the peasants. Gandhiji, he remained there in Champaran for 7 months. He also made several short visits later on. His visits on the request of a peasant was presumed to last a few days, but it took a year. Now we can say that for a year Gandhiji remained there in Champaran. The official inquiry didn't favor the planters, hence they agreed to pay back to the peasants. But they questioned Gandhi regarding the amount to be repaid. What amount should be repaid to the peasants? Now here the money lenders, they had thought that Gandhi would ask for the full payment of the money which they had taken from the peasants forcefully, or we can say fraudulently. But he asked for only 50% and his decision was firm. A missionary is there, Reverend J. Jad Hose, who had a close watch on the matter, reported this. The planters offered to pay only 25% as they thought it would be rejected by Gandhi. But Gandhiji, he immediately accepted it. Gandhi said that the amount of money was not important, but by giving money the planters that had bowed down to the peasant and had given away their honor too. The planters who earlier behaved as if they were above the law now had to abide by it. This made the peasants realize their rights and give them courage to fight for them. These events had proven Gandhiji's position now. The British planters had to leave their property within the next few years, and their properties were returned back to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping soon came to an end. Gandhi was not satisfied by achieving political or economic solutions, and he sought to remove the culture and social backwardness of Champaran. Gandhi wanted to do something to remove the backwardness in the villages of Champaran. Gandhiji, he never contented himself with large political or economic solutions. He saw the culture and the social backwardness in the Champaran villages and wanted to do something about it immediately. He appealed for teachers, Mahadev Desai, Narhari Parikh. These are the 2 young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciples, and their wives, they volunteered for the work. Several more, they came from Bombay, Pune, other distant parts of the land. Devdas, the Gandhi's youngest son, he arrived from the ashram, and so did Mrs. Gandhi. Now the primary schools, they were opened in 6 villages. Gandhiji's wife, she taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. But we find that the health conditions of the people of Champaran, these were very poor. So Gandhi got a doctor who offered his services free of cost for 6 months. There were only 3 medicines: castor oil, quinine and sulfur ointment available. A patient with a clotted tongue was given castor oil. A malaria patient was served as a dose of quinine, and a patient with a skin disorder was given ointment as well as castor oil. The women of the area, they used to wear dirty clothes. When Gandhiji tried to know the reason through his wife, he was told that those were the only saris each of the women had. While Gandhiji was in Champaran, he kept a long distance vigil on the ashram also. He used to send letters of orders regarding financial matters. And once he wrote to the locals that it was time to dig new toilets as the old ones had started giving foul smell. The Champaran incident. This has changed Gandhiji's life totally. He said that he had done a regular thing. He had put his point across that the Britishers could not order him in his own country. The Champaran Satyagraha was not an act of opposition. It was an attempt to help out the poor and tortured peasants. This was Gandhiji's way to solve the issue. His politics was knitted up with the everyday problems faced by the millions of people. Moreover, he did not aim at the fulfillment of ideas. Rather, he was concerned for the people. The basic idea was to serve humanity, make a free Indian who could stand for his rights. In the end of the chapter, we find that early in the Champaran action, Charles Frere Andrews, who was a peacemaker, he visited Gandhi before going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. Here the Gandhi's lawyer's friend, they wanted Andrews to stay at the ashram and help them, but Gandhi refused. He said that they did not need the help of Britishers, as it showed a lack of trust in their own abilities. He asked them not to seek any help from Mr. Andrews as he was an English man. Rajendra Prasad, he later on stated that Gandhi had read their thoughts and his reply served as a lesson of self-sufficiency for them. Gandhi in this way taught us a lesson in self-reliance, being self-dependent, Indian independence and help to sharecroppers. These acts of Gandhi, these were interconnected. In total, we can say that the chapter Indigo, it emphasizes the fact that effective leadership, it can solve any kinds of problems without any harm to anybody. Moreover, courage, determination, truthfulness, honesty and patriotism shown by Gandhiji and determination and being resolute, these qualities of Rajkumar Shukla, they initiated the civil disobedience movement in India.
Like, share and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.